Okay, okay. So now that we have learned about adjustment layers, we're going to actually start applying these adjustment layers to our workflow. So what I want you guys to do real quickly, I want you guys to so for this video, what we're going to be going over is what we're going to be talking about adjustment layers. Okay, and this is actually pretty simple and straightforward. Um, so if you guys have your layer mask practice file that we started earlier, I want you guys to open that up. Also, the file that we worked on last week, which was the image of the model, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to open that up as well because we're going to. Okay, so what we'll be doing in this particular video is the following. Um, I'm going to be showing you guys how to actually apply layer masks in a different way. Okay, in the last video that you went over layer masks with, basically I showed you guys how to uh, swap out skies using layer masks. However, there are a lot of different ways to utilize a layer mask. And in this situation, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a photo. Well, actually, not even a photo. We're going to be creating a photo manipulation, and we're going to be using layer masks to create a certain type of atmosphere for this particular photo manipulation. So, right off the bat, what I want you guys to do is open up that layer mask file that you guys worked on, uh, the layer mask file that I got you guys to download earlier. And within that file, like I said earlier, it's two folders within that file. It's an alien folder and a model folder. In the last video, you used the model folder. This video, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be using the alien folder, and there are about 7 images within that particular folder. Okay, and here's what I want you guys to do. When you find that folder, we're going to be utilizing 3 images. All right. We're going to be using the Alien 2, the Fog, and the Landscape. And what I want you guys to do is take these files and open them up in Photoshop, okay? Alright, so once you have these files open in Photoshop, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new document. So, File New. And we're going to name this Layer Masking Practice. And we're going to change this from pixels to inches. We're going to make it 8 by 10. I'm going to make sure the color mode is set to RGB. I'm going to set this to 8-bit. Let's make sure our color profile is set to Adobe RGB 1998. And we're just going to click on create. Okay, perfect. Now here's what we're going to do. We need to get all these different images onto our layer masking file. So we could easily do this by going to, let's say, our landscape image, and we're just going to click on create. I'm going to make it 8 by 10. I'm going to make sure to, alright, so once you have these files open in Photoshop, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create 3 images, alright? We're going to be using the Alien 2, the fog, and the landscape. And what I want you guys to do is take these files and open them up in Photoshop, okay? Alright, so once you have these files open in Photoshop, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new document. So, file new. And we're going to name this layer masking practice. And we're going to change this from pixels to inches. We're going to make it 8 by 10. I'm going to make sure the color mode is set to RGB. I'm going to set this to 8-bit. Let's make sure our color profile is set to Adobe RGB 1990. Alright, so once you have these files open in Photoshop, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new document. So, file new. And we're going to name this layer masking practice. And we're going to change this from pixels to inches. We're going to make it 8 by 10. I'm going to make sure the color mode is set to RGB. I'm going to set this to 8-bit. Let's make sure our color profile is set to Adobe RGB 1998. And we're just going to click on create. Okay, perfect. Now here's what we're going to do. We need to get all these different images onto our layer masking file. So we could easily do this by going to, let's say, our landscape image. I'm going to select all. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. Same thing with the fog. Select all, copy it, and paste it. And actually what we can do is we can go back to these files and close them because we're not going to need them no more. Then we're going to go to our alien file. And this time, you guys, we're going to just abstract the alien, okay? And if you don't know by now, in this situation, we'll definitely be using our magic wand tool. And we keep our tolerance at like 12, 15, 20, whatever. And we're just going to click on a white background. And then we're going to we're going to go to select inverse. We're going to copy, and we're going to bring them right into our document. Perfect. Then we're going to close out the alien. Alright, so now next thing I'm going to do is real simple. We're going to name our layer. So I'm going to name my alien layer alien. Name my fog layer fog. And I'm going to name my landscape layer landscape. Alright. So here's what we need to do. when it comes to photo manipulations, there are a number of different things that you need to consider. Number one, what are you trying to create? Number two, what is going to be your starting point? And number three, what is the overall feel that you really want to, you know, you want this image to portray? In this case, what I really want to create is just something extremely moody and something pretty atmospheric. So I chose an alien, some fog, and a foundation, which is like my landscape layer right here. It's really, really simple, simplistic stuff, and I think you guys will like the final result, okay? And to get to that final result, we'll be layered masks, all right? So here's what we're gonna do. First thing, let's cut off our alien and fog layer, and let's go to our landscape layer, make sure it's clicked on, and we'll choose Edit Free Transform or Command T. Remember, if you're on a PC, Command equals Control. So once you go into Free Transform mode, we're going to go on the outside of our landscape. We're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to click and drag it to the left. So when you hold down Shift whenever you're turning something, that basically lets it turns it in equal proportions. Or if I didn't hold down Shift, I would just have to, eyeball it. You see? So I'm gonna hold down Shift. Boom. Now I'm gonna hold down Shift again and just make it a little bit smaller. Hold down Shift again on the left, make it a little bit smaller till it's right on the edge. And I'm gonna take my arrow, drag it down a little bit, and then I'm gonna hit the check mark up here. All right. So now with this landscape, I have created a solid foundation for my manipulation. This is the ground, okay? Next thing that I want is I want my fog to cover up this entire document, okay? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on my fog layer and I'm going to cut it on. Now the problem that we run into is that the fog is mixed in with all this shrubbery in the foreground. So what can we do? Well, I'll show you. We can actually go up here and, edit Free Transform or Command T. And what I'll do is I'm going to hold down Shift and Option, or you could just hold down Shift. But if I hold down Shift and Option, it's going to scale from the center. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag outward like so, and then I'm going to drag this down. If you run into an issue where you can't really see all your nodes on your Free Transform dialog box thingamajig here, you can hit Command 0 and it'll bring everything to light. Alright, so we're going to just bring this fog to about right here. Then we're going to hit the check mark. Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my alien and cut him on. Alright, I'm going to hide my fog layer real quick. And while I have my alien layer on, I'm going to go into Free Transform mode. Make it a little bit smaller. Put it right in the center. About right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my magic wand tool, or my zoom tool, or I can just zoom in. Take my magic wand tool and click on the inside of his hand and hit delete. I'm going to go on the other side and do the same thing. Delete. Then I'm going to deselect. All right, now I'm going to hit Command 0 so I can see everything. All right, it looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my fog layer. So as you can see, when I turn on my fog layer, the background gets hidden. Hit delete. I'm going to go on the other side and do the same thing. Hit delete. Then I'm going to select, deselect. All right, now I'm going to hit Command 0 so I can see everything. All right, it looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my fog layer. So as masks in a different way, overall feel that you really want to, So I'm going to click and drag outward like so. See some of the landscape. Pretty good. I'm going to zoom back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my fog layer. So as you can see, when I turn on my fog layer, the background gets hidden, okay? And that's something I don't want. I want this to have that atmosphere to it. I want the fog to show up. I want this fog to be above my alien. And I want to see some of the landscape. So what I need to do right now is I'm going to take my alien and drag it below the fog layer. And now I can't see my alien. But there's a trick to being able to see him. Okay? This is where layer masking can come into play. Alright? So, like I mentioned in the earlier video, we could easily take our eraser tool, right, and make it soft, a little bit bigger, and I can erase the areas that I don't want. But that brings up a problem, because what might can happen is you save your file, then you come back and work on it, and you realize that, hey, I shouldn't have deleted this part of the image. So this is why we can do layer masking. So in order to get a layer mask, like I showed you guys in the first video, here's what you could do. You click on a layer that you want masked. You'll click on it. You'll come down here and you'll click on this little washing machine. And boom, there you have it. Then what we'll do, we'll take our brush tool. We'll choose an opacity of 100. Make sure our mode is set to normal. And we're going to make the brush a little bit bigger. Remember, the right bracket key makes the brush bigger. The left bracket key makes it smaller. Like so. And then what we'll do is we're going to make sure that our foreground color is set to black while we're on our layer mask. And then what I'll do is set my brush to about 600. And then I'll just take this and I'll just hide a little bit. You see? You see what happens? So basically what's going on is we're actually hiding the fog right now, which is perfect. And I really like how it's looking. However, we run into an issue. The alien isn't seen right now. So what we have to do is, while we're on this fog layer, we need to, not fog layer, but the fog layer mask, we need to take that brush, make sure it's set to black, and we need to hide the areas where the alien is. So I'm going to click on here, and I run into another issue. And that issue is the background of this landscape is being shown, and it looks very, very cheap. Okay? So how can we fix this problem? Am I going to take a guess? Okay, well, if you don't want to take a guess, I'll just go ahead and tell you how to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to take this fog layer and we're going to duplicate it. So let's take it, drag it down to the new layer icon, or you could hit Command J. All right. Issue. The alien isn't seen right now. So what we have to do is, while we're on this fog layer, we need to, oh, not fog layer, but the fog layer mask. We need to take that brush, make sure it's set to black, and we need to hide the areas that where the alien is. So I'm going to click on here, and I run into another issue, and that issue is the background of this landscape is being shown, and it looks very, very cheap. Okay, so how can we fix this problem? Am I going to take a guess? Okay, well, if you don't want to take a guess, I'll just go ahead and tell you how to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to take this fog layer and we're going to duplicate it. So let's take it, drag it down to the new layer icon, or you could hit Command J. All right. And now it creates a copy. And we're going to take this copy and drag it below the alien. Now, while we're on the fog copy layer, we're going to click on the layer mask of that fog copy layer. Then we're going to switch our brush from black to white. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to, voila, paint away. However, I think I painted too much right here. So I'm just going to swap it back. And I'm just going to paint this area right here. The new layer icon, or you could hit Command J. All right. And now it creates a copy. And we're going to take this copy and drag it below the alien. Now, while we're on the fog copy layer, we're going to click on the layer mask of that fog copy layer. Then we're going to switch our brush from black to white. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to, voila, paint away. However, I think I painted too much right here, so I'm just going to swap it back, and I'm just going to paint this area right here. Now I gotta be careful because this fog layer right here is still being shown, and I painted some. It looks like I painted too much away. So what I can always do, I can go back to this fog layer, paint with white again. And for some reason, my brush is acting really weird. I think I need to reset my brushes. Let's do that. Here. And I'm going to choose basic brushes. And for me, I'm going to click append. If you do this, you should just click OK. Let's see. Should be okay. Let's see. Cancel. I'm going to choose this one. It's more basic. Sometimes brushes can be really annoying in different at different times. So let's see. So anyways, I'm going back to my fog copy layer, and I'm just going to paint until I can't really see that that horizon line. And let's see. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go back to this fog layer and paint a little bit more right about here. Okay. So I get something pretty nice here. So now that I have my foreground, not foreground, my fog above my alien, you can take a look and see the reason why this alien is being appearing. Because number one, even though I have a layer on top of him that usually would cover him up, I have a layer mask added to that layer, and I have certain segments of the layer mask hidden. So I can easily, if I wanted to, I could easily paint the fog back like so, but that's too much. Maybe I could paint some more at the bottom. Okay, it's still too much for me. So what can I do to fix this? Okay. All right. So the thing is, I can fix this by doing a couple of different things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do those things in the next video. So welcome back to part 2 of our layer masking practice, okay? So in the last video, I showed you guys about how to utilize 2 different layer masks to get a result like so. So basically what we did was we took one image, we took one layer and we masked it. However, what was happening was the landscape behind it started showing up. So what we did was we duplicated it and we masked out certain areas of the duplicate, so that way the only thing that was really showing was this foreground right here. Okay, but what I wanted to show you guys for this particular video was the different ways you can utilize your layer mask to give you different looks. So right now we have our alien pretty much out there, but for this, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to create something a little bit more moodier than this, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to actually take our brush tool and we're going to play around with what we call opacities of the brush tool. And don't get it confused with the opacity of your actual layer, which is over here. But when you have your brush tool, you can play with the opacity of the actual brush, which is up here in your menu. All right. So right now our opacity is set to 100 and our flow is set to 100. Okay. Now, we're not really going to worry about flow. We're just going to leave that alone and we're going to come over here to opacity. And for this, what I want you guys to do, keep it at 100 right now. And while you're on the original fog layer mask right here, let's take our brush and let's just make it a little bit bigger. Say 1,000. Okay. And I'm just going to paint one stroke across right here. Okay. Watch one stroke. And as you can see, this actually looks pretty cool, but too much of the alien is being hidden. So I'm going to hit Command Z. And now if I paint at a low opacity, let's change the opacity to about 40%. And then let's do the exact same swipe. Let's click here and let's pull it over like so. You guys see what happens there? Basically what happens is, since we painted at a low opacity, the less that fog starts to show up, even when we're painting with white, okay? That's basically what happens. And if we would do another one, the more prominent that fog starts to become. All right, I'm just gonna hit Command Z because I really like that one stroke that we did. It's really nice. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna come around the bottom. And when I come around the bottom, I'm gonna keep my opacity of my brush at 40%, and I'm just gonna paint once. And now what I'm getting is something that is really looks really like fog. Okay, fog is really starting to show up. And that is basically how the opacities with using the brush tool works. Okay, and just for example purposes, what I'm going to do, you guys don't have to do this, I'm just going to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new document. And again, you guys don't have to do this. I just want you guys to have a feel for what I'm about to show you. Make it 8x10, resolution 300. And let's see. Okay, click create. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush tool, right? I'm going to take my brush tool, make sure it's at 100%, and I'm going to make sure it's really soft. And I'm going to set my foreground color to black. And now watch what happens when I just click once. Okay, that's once at 100%. Now let's change it to 50. And I'm going to click again. And let's change this one to 25. Excuse me. And now let's change the next one to 5. Okay, you guys see that? Basically, reason why I showed you guys this is because when you paint at different opacities, the less prominent what you do will become. Okay. All right. So we have 100%, 50%, 25%, and 5%. Same thing applies to this right here. All right. If I paint at 100%, everything is going to come back. If I paint at 50% or below, it'll be less prominent when I try to paint it back. And if I paint, the lower the number, the less prominent whatever it is that you're painting the less prominent it'll become when you start painting back. And the same thing applies to when I'm actually painting away. Okay, so for example, right now, if I were to, let's say I'm going to take my layer mask, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to choose fill. I'm going to fill it in with white, so that way everything goes back to normal. Now, if I were to paint with black at a really low opacity, let's say 40%, and I painted on that layer mask, as you guys can see, it's not as prominent as it was last time. And now if I do the same thing and paint with an opacity of 100%, you guys see that? That's the biggest difference. Now, something else I want you guys to take note of is, even though I use a layer mask and I duplicated my fog layer, this right here in the background is still being shown. I don't want that. So I know what I need to do is click on my fog copy, take my brush tool, make it a little smaller, and I'm going to paint with white, like so. Now I'm painting different strokes here. I'm going to click one here. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my original fog layer, and I'm going to choose black. And I don't want this alien to be too prominent, so I'm going to paint with an opacity of 25% this time. And click once, probably twice, and a few times. There we go. So now, there we have it. We have our alien with fog. And that's basically one of the ways you can actually utilize a layer mask. Really simplistic to the point. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, one other thing that I really want to show you guys, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to my fog layer, click on the layer mask, edit, go down to fill, contents, choose white. Now, I'm going to make my opacity at 100. And the next thing I'm going to do is fog layer, click on the layer mask, edit, go down to fill, contents, choose white. Now, I'm going to make my opacity at 100. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the hardness of my brush to 100%. And then I'm going to make sure my foreground color is set to black. Make sure I'm on my layer mask, and I'm going to paint. You guys see that? And if you recall, in the file where we actually shot the... Now, I'm going to make my opacity at 100. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the hardness of my brush to 100%. And then I'm going to make sure my foreground color is set to black. Make sure I'm on my layer mask, and I'm going to paint. You guys see that? And if you recall, in the file where we actually shot the model, not shot, but we photoshopped the model, we used a mix of soft brush and hard brushes. And in this scenario, you might want to stay away from hard brushes because you want that fog to be extremely soft, because I mean there's no hard fog anywhere. Everything is gradual and soft. So let's just change that from 100 to 0, and then we'll just paint everything back in. Remember, you could paint at low opacities as well. Actually, I kind of like that, like this right here. All right, and there you have it. And if you want to check your layer mask, you could do so by holding down the Option key and clicking on the layer mask just to see how things look. And remember, with that black painting that I did earlier to hide some of the fog, you can see that instead of these areas being straight up black, they're a gray to grayish tone. And if you were paying attention in the first couple of videos when I went over layer masking, I I explained to you guys that there's only two important colors when it comes to layer masking: black and white. And if you paint at a certain opacity, what's going to happen is it's going to have a grayish tone to it, depending on what opacity you're painting it. Okay, just like I showed you in that earlier example. Okay. Now to get out of this, all I have to do is click on the actual layer and hit Command 0, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks. Okay. Now what I want you guys to do is just go ahead and save your file, and make sure you save it as a PSD file, so that way you can open up later, because we will be using this file in later videos. Okay. So that is basically it when it comes to layer masking, you guys. I really hope you have learned something about layer masking, and maybe you can actually use layer masking to your advantage in the future. Okay. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can always email me. I'll be more than happy to help out. And yeah, until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. So for this video, what we're going to be going over is we're going to be talking about adjustment layers, okay? And this is actually pretty simple and straightforward. Um, so if you guys have your layer mask practice file that we started earlier, I want you guys to open that up. Also, the file that we worked on last week, which was the image of the model, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to open that up as well, because we're going to be going over two different ways that we can actually utilize um, uh, adjustment layers, okay? So let me go ahead and open that up. So I went ahead and opened up the image that we worked on last week, and also basically the image I wanted you guys to create last week, which was the model with the sky, change the sky in the background. All right, so yeah, but what I'm going to start off first, we're going to start off with our layer masking practice file, and basically what adjustment layers are. Uh, Basically, with the adjustment layers, you can actually add a lot of different things to your image, like color toning, contrast, a lot of different things. So let's start off with the basics, okay? And you can experiment with by yourself. So the number one thing is we want to make sure we have our top layer selected. All right, and we're gonna go down to this little icon right here. It's black and white. You click on it, and let's start with the really simple adjustment layer that most people usually use, and that is color balance. And what we'll do is, with color balance, you have a lot of different options here. So right now, our image is pretty neutral. Hopefully you guys don't hear the truck outside. It's crazy. But anyways, so now what I could do is I can automatically change the mood of my my image that I'm working on, or a photograph, with a few adjustments to my color balance. And whenever you choose a adjustment layer, a properties dialog box usually pops up, and usually it's normally right in this area. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn this image into a somewhat cool image. And what I mean by that is this. I'm going to take my cyan slider and push it towards the left. And then I can go down and take my blue slider right over here and push it towards the right. And you can automatically see the difference that it's making towards this photo. If I want to, I could enhance that even more. I can take it. You see where it says tones? I can click on that and choose highlights or shadows. I'm going to choose highlights. And my highlights, like the bright spots, if I were to take it and I could push it towards cyan, you can see the highlights start to have a cyan tone. And if I do it towards the blue, you can start to see those highlights start to, have like a more bluish tone as well. Now, the beautiful thing about adjustment layers is that I can go back and forth and toggle it on and off to see what I like. I can change the opacity of them if I wanted to lower the effect, and also I can change the blend mode of them. Sometimes certain blend modes might do nothing, and sometimes it might do something pretty cool. Also, another thing I could do is I could I can go back and change everything that I just made a change to. I can go back to my cyan, put it 0, go back to my yellow, and put a 0. I can click and go back to my midtones, change everything and put 0. And basically what it does is it puts me back where I started from. And I could warm it up if I wanted to. I could take my reds, push it I can take my yellows, push it. I can push my magentas if I wanted to, or my greens, just to give me a different feel. And I could do that for each one of these sections, my midtone, shadows, highlights. All right, so that's one adjustment layer. Now there are about 19 or 20 of adjustment layers that you guys can work with. Let's go with another adjustment layer. Let's go down, choose our adjustment layer icon again. We could choose solid color. And with solid color, right now, whatever color you had as your foreground color earlier, that's what color the solid color is going to be. But for right now, let's choose a green. I'm going to choose a green tone. And I'm going to click OK. And right now, nothing is happening. But what I can do is I could do a lot of different things. I could change the opacity if I wanted to. All right, so I'm going to make it 100. And I'm going to change the blend mode. Let's go to color. And see what starts to happen? You get a monotone feel of color right around here. But if I think that affects too much, I could turn down the opacity. Or I can keep the opacity at 100 and just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And the blend mode is going to give me different results with each blend mode I choose. Okay. All right. And so let's go to color. And see what starts to happen? You get a monotone feel of color right around here. But if I think that affects too much, I could turn down the opacity. Or I can keep the opacity at 100 and just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And the blend mode is going to give me different results with each blend mode I choose. Okay. All right. I can't really guide you on. All right, so I'm going to make it 100. And I'm going to change the blend mode. Let's go to color. And see what starts to happen? You get a monotone feel of color right around here. But if I think that affects too much, I could turn down the opacity. Or I can keep the opacity at 100 and just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And the blend mode is going to give me different results with each blend mode I choose. Okay. And just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And the blend mode is going to give me and just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And see what starts to happen? You get a monotone feel of color right around here. But if I think that affects too much, I could turn down the opacity. Or I can keep the opacity at 100 and just change the blend mode if I wanted to. And the blend mode is going to give me different results with each blend mode I choose. Okay. All right. I can't really guide you on what's right and what's wrong. You have to practice having a good eye. You have to know what looks good. I can only guide you from my taste. I'm pretty sure I know what looks good and what doesn't. But sometimes you gotta practice yourself. All right. And then if I wanted to change this color tone, all I would have to do is I like that a lot. What I could do is I could double click on the icon right here, or should I say the layer thumbnail, and I could change it to a blue tone or a purple tone or something else. And if I'm happy with the second choice, I could just click OK. And you see how it changes? Just like that. And I could change the blend mode to give me something. Oh God, that's real cool. Ooh. I really like that. All right. But as you can see, different blending modes will yield different results. So it's a really good idea to practice, getting used to it. All right. So I'm going to cut that one off. And what I want to do now is I'm going to go to a different one. I'm going to cut this adjustment layer off and this adjustment layer off. And I'm going to choose, let's see, which one do I want to use? Oh, here's one. Let's go to levels. The second choice, I can just click OK. And you see how it changes? Just like that. And I can change the blend mode to give me something. Oh God, that's real cool. Ooh. I really like that. All right. But as you can see, different blending modes will yield different results. So it's a really good idea to practice, getting used to it. All right, so I'm gonna cut. Cut that one off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to a different mode to give me something. Oh, God, that's real cool. Ooh. I really like that. All right. But like, as you can see, different blending modes will yield different results. So it's a really good idea to practice, getting used to it. All right. So I'm going to cut that one off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to a different one. I'm going to cut this adjustment layer off and this adjustment layer off, and I'm going to choose. Let's see which one I want to use. Oh, here's one. Let's go to levels. And with levels, basically, you have control over three things with levels: your blacks, your midtones, and the whites. So, or you could say shadows, midtones, and highlights. So if I take this black little arrow right here, I could push it towards the right, and you can start to see the shadows start to get a lot deeper. If I take that back, I can push the white towards the left, and as you can see, the highlights start to get more brighter. And if I take the midtone slider, it basically, if I push it towards the right, the highlights and the shadows start to get a little bit darker. Push it towards the left, it becomes less contrasty, and the highlights and the shadows start to become more brighter. All right, and that can give you an image some nice contrast. All you have to do is to push your black slider towards the right a little bit, push your white slider towards the left a little bit, and it'll give you like a nice contrast. Okay, and what I could do is I could stack all these adjustment layers on top of each other just to see what kind of different options I might get. You see, I can cut some of them off, some of them on. I don't know which one I like more. I really like this one. Yeah, dude, I like this one a lot. This looks pretty cool. All right, I know what, I'm gonna push it towards this way right here. I think that looks pretty nice. All right, and just for those, I mean, if you're following along with these adjustment layers, there's really no right or wrong. I'm just experimenting, so you don't have to have the exact same color that I'm using. You can have like a green for all I know, but I don't really want a green right now because I don't really like how that looks. So I'm hit cancel. Now, here's something that all adjustment layers come with, and it's crazy because I really utilize adjustment layers all the time, and the thing that all adjustment layers come with is a layer mask. If you take a look, all of them come with a layer mask, and we could treat those layer masks just like how we treated our layer mask earlier. We could take our brush tool, and we can actually, let's say, turn the opacity up to 100, make sure the foreground color is black, and we could paint in the areas that we really don't want affected. So in this case, let's say I don't want this area right here to be affected from the levels adjustment layer that I did. I could take my black brush, click on the actual adjustment layer, and click and just hide some of that effect, and voila. See? And if I wanted it back, you know, I could just paint with white on that adjustment layer again, which I really like right here. It looks cool. And yeah, that's basically it with adjustment layers. Now, here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go to our model image right here, model.psd, that I got you guys to work on. And we're gonna use adjustment layers on this. The same principles. However, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit, I'm gonna give you guys a few more tips and tricks, okay? So right off the bat, there are some things that you can actually do. Let's say you come across a photograph and you really want to use it for an assignment that you might have, and you want to enhance it a little bit. And let's say this is the photo. There are a couple things you can do. I can add a color tone to this and enhance it, or I can make it black and white and enhance it. And let me show you guys what I mean. So the first thing I'm going to do is, while I'm on my top layer, I'm going to try out a color tone. Let's go down here, and I'm going to select, we'll go back to color balance. And for this, I want a cool, actually I'm trying a warm tone. So I'm going to go choose my reds and push it towards the right a little. Uh-oh, looks like my program crashed. Let me crank it back up. Okay, so as you guys saw that my Photoshop application has crashed. It crashed, and luckily Photoshop has a little recovery software within itself that will open up your images that you've been working on. Usually it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that is extremely frustrating. But anyways, so we were talking about adding a adjustment layer to it, and I was using color balance, and I was going to warm it up a little bit, just a tad bit. And to me, the way this photo was shot, like, the warm tone doesn't really suit it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cool it off a little bit. And I think that a cooler tone actually works a lot better. And let's change the tone from midtones. Let's go to shadows, and let us make it even cooler. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what's up. I like that. And for the highlights, let's see. We might not even have to mess with highlights. That looks pretty good. Okay. Oh, we could mix and match. All right. Okay, that looks pretty good. And you see how it takes your image from, just being, from being really nice to pushing it to the next level. And another thing we could do is we can enhance these shadows a bit more by going down to our levels option, or should I say levels adjustment layer, and we can push in the shadows just a little bit if we want to. All right, and then I could take this and push it towards the left. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I like that a little bit. Yeah, and then we could cut it on and off. Cut each one of them on and off. Let's see, let's cut this one off first. And wow, that contrast that we get is pretty nice. And this is my preferred method of doing, like, having contrast to my photo. Another way you can do it is we can cut off the levels, we can cut off the color balance, and we can go down here to, we can choose curves. And what we could do is we could just come about right here, we can click and hold, drag it towards the bottom right here. And then we could take the top half right here and click and hold and drag it towards here and give us like an S curve. And that's one way we can add some contrast as well. Now we're going to keep all three of these adjustment layers on for right now, and look what happens. Sometimes it might be a little bit too much. So I'm going to cut them off. And then what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you guys a black and white technique. All right. So if I were to just come down here and select a adjustment layer, you have a lot of different adjustment layers here. I can choose black and white, or I could go with a different method. Personally, in this kind of situation, I use a completely different technique when it comes to making images black and white. All right, but right now I'm going to show you guys the basic way. And this is the way I want you guys to practice it for right now. We're going to go down to hue saturation, and I'm going to show you guys about this hue saturation. If I were to take this saturation slider and shove it all the way towards the right, look what happens. It becomes really, really crazy. And that is something that you'll want to avoid, okay? You can use the saturation to, enhance the color scheme that you have going on. But sometimes if you overdo it, you might just run into some problems. But the good thing about this is that it's an adjustment layer, and you can make an adjustment. All right, so I'm going to take the saturation, and I can turn it down. And what it does is it mutes a lot of things. It mutes a lot of the colors. And also, another thing that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to drag it all the way to -100. And basically what you get a black and white photograph. Now, most people, like when they say they want a black and white photograph, or they want to make a photo black and white, they turn it black and white like this, and they leave it there. And me being a photographer, that is not good enough for me, okay? That is never good enough for me. And let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go to my website, and I'm just going to show you some samples, okay? All right, let's go to Google Chrome. And as you can see, like, my imagery, actually, I'm going to go to my portrait section. Like, my imagery, when it comes to black and white, I like my black and white images with, like, some nice contrast. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do that with my images, okay? Now, granted, I use a different technique. However, this technique can be done in a different way. So while I have my hue saturation layer all the way to -100, what I could do is I can actually add more adjustments to it. So I can click on this. I can go down to, or go up to levels, and I can actually take my black slider, push it towards the right a little bit, and I can take the white slider and push it towards the left a bit. I can push this mid-tone slider towards the right, and look, right off the bat, I'm getting something with some really nice contrast to it. So I go from flat to contrasty within a few clicks, okay? And if I really want to add some extra stuff, I can actually go and I could actually, let's say, I could turn back on this curves adjustment layer, and look what I get. Now, granted, it might be a little bit too much, but I can turn it down, turn down the opacity of this curves adjustment layer, and that would give me something a little bit more nicer. You see, I really like how that looks. And that's basically one of the ways you can have control over your black and whites. So I can cut them off, and you can see where we started, cut it back on, and see where we end. Just like that. All right? Really, really simplistic. If I wanted to, I could actually click on the topmost layer. If I wanted to add like a sepia tone, I can click on solid color adjustment layer, and I could choose like a brownish tone. Click OK, and I could change the blender mode to color, and I could turn down the opacity to about maybe 10% or 15%, and that gives me like a nice little color tone. Usually I like to do this when I'm actually developing film, or should I say making film prints, but sometimes people like to do it the digital way. All right, So there we have it. And that's just one of the ways we can actually um, enhance a black and white image, okay? By using adjustment layers. All right, so we use adjustment layers to create a black and white image, and we also use an adjustment layer to change the overall tone of an image as well. So there are many ways you could do it, okay? All right, so here we've gone over a few of these adjustment layers, but the thing is, you can practice using different adjustment layers. Like right now I'm using brightness and contrast. I can bump up my brightness. Ooh, that looks really cool. I go over the contrast. Whoa, that's better than I thought it would look. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. But again, there are many ways you can utilize these adjustment layers, and don't be afraid to mix and match them. You know, there's no right or wrong. It's just what looks good. Okay, that's basically what it is. All right. So with all that being said, that is basically it when it comes to adjustment layers. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an assignment utilizing adjustment layers, and that assignment will be in the next video. Okay, so now that we have learned about adjustment layers, we're going to actually start applying these adjustment layers to our workflow. So what I want you guys to do real quickly, I want you guys to select all your adjustment layers that you put on these images and hit the delete key. We're going to go to our masking and stuff. We're going to select those and hit the delete. Key. Now, what we're going to do now is now masking and stuff. We're going to select those and hit the delete key. Now, what we're going to do now is I'm not going to do it. I want you guys to do it. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to choose between a warm tone or cold tone when it comes to this alien image, right? And you're going to turn it into me as a PSD file. All right. So that's basically it. I want you guys to choose between a warm tone or a cold tone. Use adjustment layers to create that, and you're going to turn this into me. All right. Also, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to choose this model photo I got you guys to work on. You're going to, again, this time you're going to change it to black and white, and I don't want it to be a flat black and white. I want you to take the techniques I showed you, give it some nice contrast, and you're going to turn it into me as a PSD file as well. Okay? That's what I want from you. If you have any questions or whatnot, just message me, not message me, but email me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay? So that's all I want from you. All right? And that will be due, well, next week. Okay? So you have all this week to work on it. But yeah. Now, be on the lookout this Wednesday. Well, I'll take that back. When the time comes, I'll let you guys know when the next videos will be up about the next thing we'll be learning. All right. So with all that being said, you guys, that's what I want from you. And be sure to name your files properly. You can name it Model 1 Adjustment Layers put your name or whatever. Just don't give it to me as a nameless file. All right. So that's what I want from you guys by next week. Okay. So I will see you guys in the next video.